Today on Games Up, we will be taking a closer look at Isle of Skye, Journeyman, the new expansion designed by Alexander Pfister and Andreas Pelikan and published by Lookout Games in Germany. Isle of Skye Journeyman is an expansion for the 2016 Kennerspiel des Jahres winner Isle of Skye from Chieftain to King. Now, you are not only building up your lands, but also must travel the land to spread your popularity, gain wealth, and strengthen your kingdom. You will follow the core game rules, setting up the game normally and adding the new scoring tiles to the original scoring tiles. Players additionally receive a player progress board, 3 progress markers, bonus tiles, 2 waypoint markers, and a journeyman, who begins on the castle tile. The progress board tracks the movement of the player's journeymen around their kingdom. The progress markers will advance on the board as the player travels around their landscape tiles to the indicated objectives. For example, the first step on the middle merchant track requires a journeyman to travel to a tile that contains a ship. Traveling with the journeyman will be described in more details in an example below. The travel phase is carried out after buying and adding new landscape tiles to your kingdom. Each player places their purchased tiles down on their clan territory, following the tile placement rules. Next, players simultaneously plan their journeyman movement. Player X has a house in their territory and wants to use that to advance along the bottom track. She also sees that the next step on that track is to go with your journeyman to the northernmost tile in your territory. If she would accomplish that, she would then acquire a bonus tile. To carry out her plan, she puts 1 waypoint marker onto the house and the second waypoint marker onto the most northern part of her map. It is important to make sure that you have enough movement points to reach your waypoint markers. Each player can use a maximum of 4 steps or movement points in the beginning of the game. Player X has already upgraded to 5 movement points by progressing far enough along the merchant track. Moving from one tile to another without using a road costs 2 points. The player reaches the house and then picks up her waypoint marker, so now she can advance along her bottom row 1 step to the right. She now has 3 movement points remaining. In the next step, she moves north. Traveling along a road costs only 1 movement point. She makes it to the northernmost tile and then picks up her waypoint marker. On her progress board, she gets another step along the bottom track, which gains her a bonus marker. This bonus marker immediately gives her another step on the track of her choice, so she uses it for a step on the upper warrior track. She gets another bonus tile from the warrior track. This time she gains 1 victory point and 1 road, a new addition to the Journeyman expansion. Roads can be placed in her kingdom to connect tiles that are not currently connected by roads. Traveling will now be easier, whiskey barrels can be connected to the castle for income, and more victory points may be achieved for specific scoring tiles. In case a player does not have a particular landmark in their territory, but requires it to progress along a track, they can travel to their castle tile and pay for steps on the progress board. In this example, the player pays 5 gold coins to take 1 step on their progress board. Through this step, he gains additional 5 victory points during the scoring phase at the end of the round. Similar fields with more income can be unlocked in the middle track. There are 3 larger and more powerful bonus markers that are located at the end of the progress board, which are quickly explained. The bank pays. From now on, the bank pays for any tile that you purchase from another player. You also receive 3 victory points. 2 buys. From now on, you may purchase a second landscape tile from another player, after all players have made their purchases. You also receive 3 victory points. No axe. From now on, you don't need to discard one of your landscape tiles during the auction phase. You also receive 3 victory points and 3 extra coins during the income phase. The game ends as normal, after 5 or 6 rounds depending on the player count. Isle of Skye is a great game. It's easy to teach, yet still hard to master, and has a ton of replayability with the many different combinations of scoring tiles that are possible. People may say that you shouldn't have touched the simplicity and purity of such a game by adding more complexity to it. And that's why we were a little surprised when we heard the announcement of an expansion. But thankfully, all of our concerns quickly vanish, and it turns out we really enjoy the expansion. So what is it about the expansion that's so enjoyable and worthwhile? The addition of the personal player boards, which compel you to plan out the route of your journeyman around your territory, definitely add a whole other layer of complexity to the game. It can be overwhelming when you first look at the player board, but after 2 rounds of your first game, your objectives and the main flow of the board become clear. It's a puzzle that you have to build and optimize. And so, the Journeyman expansion fits somehow into the recent boom of puzzle games. In order to win the game, you have to make progress on your player board, and that's only possible if you build up your territory in a clever way so that you can reach as many different landmarks in as few steps as possible. You have to get the right tiles and place them in the right spots. With the expansion, it will no longer happen, or at least it shouldn't, that your kingdom looks completely scattered and disconnected with no roads joining any of your tiles. And so here the roads and connecting them are now a lot more important in Journeyman. And having a more compact and well-varied kingdom, with not only sheep, but also boats and towers and so on, is crucial for getting some of the valuable bonuses on the progress board. If everything works out, you can be rewarded through a sort of leveling up mechanic, and you can also get powerful bonuses. It reminded us of playing a video game, where you complete missions and then are rewarded immediately. You might want to try to get specific bonuses quickly, for example more income, but the decision of which tracks to progress on is often dictated by which tiles you're able to purchase during the buying phase. So the busy and slightly overwhelming progress board quickly becomes more straightforward, and the best track to follow is guided mostly by which tiles you build in your kingdom. The last 3 big bonuses are great, and they give you abilities that turn the base game rules completely on their head. But this happens really only in the last 2 rounds of the game, and it's a lot of fun to suddenly be able to buy more than 1 tile, for example. We really enjoy Isle of Skye Journeyman and think it is an excellent addition to the base game. For Marcus, Isle of Skye was never one of his favorite games because of its pure auction mechanic that dominates the game. There are some times in the base game when you just can't get the right tiles in order to efficiently and robustly fulfill the scoring objectives, and most often one player is affected in this way. But now, the progress board actually nicely balances out this problem. There are almost always enough possibilities for you to progress on your journey board and to try to catch up points-wise by making it farther along your tracks than the other players. But of course you still can't forget completely about the scoring tiles, because without them you almost certainly can't win. So thus people who are missing something with the original auction system will be very happy with this expansion. We do think that the progress boards don't have the same high replayability level as the various scoring tiles of the original game. Even though the bonus tiles are placed randomly on the progress board at the start of the game, the overall paths stay the same. But this doesn't mean that it becomes a lot easier or less involved if you play it over and over again. It still requires a decent amount of planning and thinking. And because of that, if you were already bothered by people thinking too long about their tile prices during the bidding phase in the base game, it's nearly certain that planning out the journey will add an additional amount of playtime to the clock. Overall, if you love the base game of Isle of Skye, and most importantly, if you don't mind more complexity in a game, then you should definitely check out this expansion. We like it so much that we don't want to go back to the base game. If Isle of Skye was just the perfect package for you and you don't want to add more meat to it, then you most likely won't like the added intricacy of the expansion. The expansion gives Isle of Skye a very different feel and places a huge emphasis on exactly how you build your kingdom. And if you build your kingdom in the right way, it suddenly becomes incredibly rewarding.
Thank you for watching Games Up. See you next time.